The challenge is even greater as centre and north of the country are also prone to flooding. The delta rivers that pass through Bangladesh come from the Himalayas. The melting glaciers mean these rivers, already filled by the monsoon rains, become even more swollen and flood vast areas. Close to the river Brahmaputra in the very north of Bangladesh, Mohammed's village. In 2007, the floods swept away his harvest.
We always harvested rice and ate our own rice, but last year, because of the flood, we had to buy rice, which we never did before. It's been terrible for 6 months.
This country has always suffered from natural disasters. The Bangladeshis have learned to live with them, building dikes to contain the floods, shelters in case of cyclones. But climate change is making it more difficult now for Bangladesh to adapt.
Once a human group or an ecosystem has either collapsed or displaced or has to move, that's the end of that. You can't adapt anymore. Retreat is not an adaptation strategy.
If we continue the way we are, people will move. They will move to the other country, and it's going to create tensions and pressures and all that, and it affects everybody.
I think it's the biggest challenge of our time and age, and of my generation and the generation coming after us. There will be migration, big time, unless we stop climate change.
We now head to southern Africa. We're in Malawi. Here, 9 out of 10 people depend on food crops. In the centre of the country, Mbotele Mene is a village chief. The rains have flooded all the fields in the vicinity, carrying the sweet corn plants into the lake. The loss of the plants also means the village has lost the seeds for future seasons.
We tried to plant cassava, where the maize has been washed away. But the cassava has dried because of the sun. Here in Malawi, we have a great problem with food.
For 10 years, flooding and drought blamed on climate change have been occurring more frequently in Malawi. They last longer and affect larger areas. The droughts of 2001 and 2005 brought famine.
I can remember the hunger which was brought by the sun, but I don't know the year. We survived by taking unripe bananas and mixing it with maize husks and making it into flour. Then came a group of Europeans who brought yellow maize. Those are the people who rescued us from eating husks. So we were rescued, but now there is hunger brought by floods.
The difference is that long ago the rain was coming in good time and stopping in good time, and we were planting lots of maize, beans and sweet potatoes. But nowadays it's different. The rains are stopping earlier.
Mbotele's observations are confirmed by the IPCC. The seasons are changing in southern Africa. Between now and 2100, net income from harvests could fall by 90%. The increasing gravity of the flooding and drought is forcing Malawi deeper into poverty. The population is experiencing climate change, but hasn't the means to tackle it.
People are not able to really sustain the livelihood they had before, so we have to adapt. But if you're going to adapt, it's going to require lots and lots of resources, lots of money. That money has to come from somewhere.
Justice has to be part of this. If they need money for adaptation, it can't be seen as aid. It's got to be something that is actually their right.
I'm one of the guilty people who owns airlines. Airlines, do a lot of damage. And I personally believe that all industries that are responsible for damaging the environment should have taxes levied upon them.
Among the most vulnerable regions to climate change are small islands such as the Bahamas. It's like paradise. The archipelago is famous for its beaches, yachts and banks. Lying in the turquoise waters of the Caribbean, the Bahamas are prized by American tourists. But this heavenly backdrop could become a living hell. In October 2007, Cyclone Noel battered the archipelago, causing major damage and the worst flooding ever seen.
By 4 o'clock we came to the farm. It was unbelievable. We was using a 18-foot boat to go around the farm. It looked like we was in the movies.
Bernard Knowles is a rich farmer from Long Island, which was one of the islands worst affected by Cyclone Noel.
All the chickens was already drowned and all the lambs and stuff. And all the fence posts was full of snakes and crabs and stuff. That's the only thing was sticking out the fence post. They about 6.5 feet tall. Now only the top of them was out of the water.
A little bit further away, Rosella Miller also has a farm. It's a bit smaller. She lives on the part of the island which suffered the worst flooding.
Water just keep coming up until the whole land or yards began to overflow and going across the road and everything like that until it come up so high. We just couldn't believe it. And so quick.
The floods cut Long Island in two. Many inhabitants were cut off in their homes. A school bus crisscrossed the island. At the wheel, Reuben Smith.
Large trucks and buses were the only vehicles that could pass through. So this was the link to water and food, emergency food supplies and water supplies.
Working with the aid agencies, Reuben Smith went tirelessly back and forth across the island.
When you're driving through the water and the water's rising and rising and you can look down into the entrance of the bus and see the water coming up almost to floor level and you're wondering if the bus is going to stall out. It was quite shocking to see the floodwaters, but also very touching to be able to connect with people that were cut off.
The Bahamas are in a zone that has always been exposed to cyclones, but global warming has exacerbated the situation.
Because of the warming trend, we can see the season beginning much earlier and lasting a bit longer than the prescribed season, June through November. That is a major concern here to us in the Bahamas. Secondly, we've seen an increase in the major categories of storms.
A World Bank report confirms cyclones are becoming increasingly forceful and causing more and more damage.
Our biggest problem was not so much the loss directly, but indirect loss. We had a lot of small animals, babies that we lost. The chicken was total loss. We lost about 1,600 chickens. But after the hurricane, for like 6 weeks, we was having miscarriages every day.